Okay, let's take a look at the interface. This is the blocks coding interface for the Microbit. On the left hand side we've got the virtual Microbit, which we can hide if we don't need it. Here's our little show and hide button. So we can hide the simulator, pop that away. It gives us just a little bit more screen space to work with if you have a lot of code. But it's always handy to have it there just so you can always test and make sure that your code is working. On the right hand side, this is where we're actually going to put our code or our blocks of code. And right here in the middle, we have all of our various code blocks. I'm just going to run through them so you can see what we have. Right, so let's take a look. Our very first group of code blocks is called basic. These are all the basic commands that we have. So if I click on that, I can show a number, I can show LEDs. If you just hover your mouse over long enough, it'll actually show you or give you a little tooltip on what that does, and a preview of what the JavaScript code would look like. We'll get onto that in another lesson. We've got the show string. If you want something to continuously repeat itself, we put it in a forever block. If we're wanting to pause for 100 milliseconds, we can put it there, and then there's our start block there. A lot of people kind of forget there's a little more link here. Just click on more, and there's two extra buttons over there as well. Clear screen and our arrows. So that's the basic block. If we go into input, anything that provides input to the Microbit is in this group. We have our buttons on button A or button B or button A and B. We have on shake, which then also goes down to tilting left and right, up and down, turning it around, etc. Our pins, and then also during different events as well. Again, we have more. Click on more. Here we can see where we have our rotation, our magnetic force. I mean, there's so much accelerometer range as well. The music block is to play musical notes. Now on the computer, it'll just play a random, a default note on the computer, but you'll have to then connect it via one of the pins to an actual speaker if you're going to play it through a speaker. But when you're playing with it here in the virtual interface, no problem. You will hear the sounds as they're meant to be played. You can play tones, you can ring tones. There's a couple of pre-built, pretty fun melodies there, which are quite scary. And pausing, changing the tempo. It's actually quite versatile. The LED group allows us to plot and unplot LEDs. In other words, switch them on or switch them off. Or even toggle, so if it's on, it switches off, if it's off, it switches on. We can gather the information of what the state is of an LED by using the point, and we can even plot a bar graph. There's some more options there as well. We have control over the brightness overall on the whole, all 25 LEDs, or even individual LEDs as well. And we can also then stop any animations that are happening with our LEDs. The radio group, I haven't used this with any of my students yet, but again, this will be with Bluetooth, and we can send and receive data between various microbits. Our loops, pretty cool. We've got a basic repeat loop here. If you want something to just repeat itself a certain number of times, a very simple repeat block will do this. So repeat the number of times, do the following. We also have while and for loops as well. So while a certain condition is true, and we'll look at that in a later lesson, we could do the following. And then we also have a for loop as well, where we have counters, and we can actually then have something repeat itself, like counting up or counting down, etc. The logic group, very cool. Our booleans are here, and or we've got our if true, then do something. So again, we can specify a condition to test, and then what action to take if that condition is true. We also then have our typical if our condition that we test is true, then we do something, otherwise we do something else. And you can have nested ifs as well. It's actually very powerful. Here we have our various comparisons, if something equals something else. So our Boolean operators are down here, and or not, and of course our true and false values, all in our logic group. Variables, very easy to work with. We can make a variable simply by clicking make a variable. We can then type in a variable name. We can then change that variable or set it to a particular value, or change it by a particular value as well. Our maths block, Everything you need is here in terms of maths, where we want to add, subtract, times, or divide. We can specify a given value, or we can generate random numbers as well, including random true or false options. If we go down to the advanced section, if we just scroll down a little bit more, here is where we can specify specific text or strings as we call them. Text, game, images, pins, serial controls, and much more. We're not going to go into that much depth in this range of tutorials for now. But in a nutshell, here are all your code blocks. You simply click, you choose what it is you want. So for example, if I go to show string, you can see that I need to basically take my code block, drag it up, and then it snaps into place. The forever loop I don't need right now, moved out the way, and as you can see, automatically my Microbit simulator starts to run, because on start I tell it to show the string hello. If I want to stop it, I just stop the simulator. If I want to start it, I press the play icon. There you can see it's animating right now. You can refresh that, switch off the sound if you want to, or even make this massively full screen, which is great if you really want to have a decent look at it. Look at that, that's just awesome. Okay, put that back. And there you go, that is the interface in a nutshell.